Ah, you're back. Welcome to episode 2 of the Research Lab. Thank you. Why do so many people abandon surveys halfway through? Well, wouldn't you like to know? Most of the reason for this is simply just bad respondent experience. Now, whether that's your survey's incredibly long, if you're doing something that's like 40 minutes, obviously people aren't going to be so focused for that whole time, or whether you've got something that doesn't display properly on your mobile, or it doesn't work on a desktop. There's a multitude of reasons why, and most of the time it comes down to respondents getting upset, essentially, halfway through a survey and having to get out of it. Oh, number 2. What motivates someone to finish a 20-minute survey? Well, probably because they're getting paid to do it. If it's not that, then the other side of the coin is also because people do like to actually share what they think about, certain topics and certain issues that we might be exploring during the research. So whether that's they want to tell you how annoying their bin is, or whether they really don't like the new face you put on the cuddly toy, there's loads of people who are very vocal about their opinions, and they love to answer your questions. And obviously, they are getting paid for it. Thank you. Why do surveys sometimes ask me the same question multiple times? So that's an interesting one. I suppose most of the time that this happens, it's a simple quality check. So we might ask someone at the start of the survey what your age and what your gender is, and by the end of the survey we'll ask that again, and that's just to make sure that the person is, one, who they say they are, and two, that they're actually paying attention in that survey. And we want to just make sure that the answers are consistent the whole way through, and that we're actually speaking to the right person. Can you blame someone for speeding through a boring survey? My take is no, not really. If you've got a really boring survey and something that people aren't enjoying, then you're going to get bad answers. I think that's quite an obvious factor of just the sort of human condition. If I'm bored and I'm getting paid, however much for a specific survey, all I want to do is complete it at the end of the day. If I'm actually interested and I'm actually engaged, that's when I'm really going to give you the real answers and the real insights. So let's just write some better surveys, people. It's not that hard, please. Are respondents the most undervalued part of market research? Yes, I think so. I think for a long time in the market research industry, we've been in this race to the bottom of cost. And at the end of the day, we should really be respecting the people who are good, valued respondents who are actually providing their insights and taking the time out of their day to answer your questions. It's a really tough job to be sitting there and not being paid for your own time. If you were being paid to do your job and you're getting paid less than you are currently, would you still do it? That's the question you've got to ask yourself. So we want to make sure that our respondents are getting paid a fair amount and that they're actually earning value for their opinions. Next question, please. So close. Are professional survey takers ruining data quality? I think that's a good question. I think in theory, if we were just looking at professional survey takers, then yes, they would be ruining data quality because they know how to answer surveys. They've done this multiple times and they understand what we're looking for and respond in a very specific way. However, in reality, we have the technology now to remove professional survey takers from the equation and from the final data. So the insights that are generated are not affected. Whew, thank you. Can you even tell when someone's lying on a survey? Yes, I think you usually can. And the reason for that is because in general, when people are lying, they don't actually understand the subject that they're talking about. So it's usually quite obvious to us when someone doesn't understand the issue or whether they're responding in a way that they think that we want them to respond in. So we can really very easily locate these responses and remove them from the final data set. Are we designing surveys for researchers or for respondents? Now that's a good question. I think the data that we get from surveys should obviously be designed for researchers, but what we really want to do is design the actual survey for the respondent. So you've got to find a nice mix and a nice middle ground of the in-between of how to extract this data that we want from a respondent while also giving them a good survey. 2 more. Excellent, here we go. Do higher incentives lead to better quality responses? Now, yes and no, I think is the answer to that question. Higher quality comes from a vast variety of factors, I would say. If we're looking at really low incentives, then obviously we're going to get very low quality respondents because people don't want to spend the time in order to actually complete that survey. However, If we're looking at really high incentives, these surveys then become a target for things like professional survey takers or for people who are fraudulently taking these surveys. So you've got to strike that balance in between of being able to have the correct incentive, shall we say, for the correct survey. So it does mean that if we're paying these higher incentives, sometimes you have to put more effort into removing those bad quality responses. So actually it can be sort of this catch-22. So we're actually looking for that nice middle ground of a good incentive for the correct survey. It also comes back to that point of sometimes people aren't even in the survey for the incentive itself. People do want to just give their opinions, so it's not all about that incentive that we're offering. Woo! What does a good survey experience feel like? I think a good survey experience just makes you feel like you've been valued and that your opinions are actually being taken into account. You know, rather than these generic sayings like, oh, we want your opinion on this, actually tell people what it's going to be used for. Tell them they've got this impact from their opinions. And then people are a whole lot more interested in actually giving you that information and that data. Making sure that the survey is as easy to fill out as well. You know, it works nicely, it works smoothly. It doesn't take up too much of your time as well. I think people have tended to go to these really long length of surveys, and what we actually want is short, sharp, quick, snappy insights and quick, snappy surveys that respondents are happy to take. So let's just not forget the respondent. All we want to do is make sure they have the best experience possible and look after them in the market research industry.